You won the title, you've done well, and then suddenly you can't score. You're struggling. And you're asking yourself, my tactic was working so well last season, why isn't it working? The question is this: if you want your strikers scoring more goals, first you got to find out how good was your tactic at actually creating those kind of chances. And that's the goal of today's video. Today's video is going to focus on making you understand how good your tactical system is, whether or not you need to make slight changes to your tactical system to get your strikers firing more goals. So before we begin answering the question, how do I get my strikers scoring more goals? Perhaps the first thing we should all try and understand is, how do we actually, take a microscope, take a look at our tactic and be honest with ourselves? First, we have to assign blame somewhere. Okay, it's either the player or us. So let's not blame ourselves first. Let's look at the XG table. XG table is really simple. You look at the XG table, XG basically means chances. A red number means the player has not been very good at putting away his chances. He should have scored more goals if it's red. Now, if it's green, it just means, wow, the player has been really good. He's been scoring more than we expected. Good. This is a very good start. If it's red, change the player. If it's green, well, you're doing well. Then comes the bit of let's find out a bit more about the tactic. Now, to do that, we need to find out what the average shot quality is like. But here, this is where we have to be careful. Taking XG and dividing it by shots is not enough. We need to find out if the shots were by the head or by the feet. Because if a person tries with his feet, generally those are considered to be high XG chances. Now, if it's with the head, headers are poor quality XG chances unless it's an open goal. So we want to try and nail this down. And this we get from shot map. So your last 5 games, they'll give you a shot map. In fact, even if you finish a game, you've played one match and you just want to know about the average shot quality, you can actually go into the shot map of the game that you've just played, mouse over to find out your chances. Now, what's a good chance then? 0.2 and higher, generally considered to be a good chance. But me, I'm greedy. I want to create a tactic which creates lots of goal scoring chances. So I'm always trying to get my players to score with 0.4 to 0.8 XG. Now, those are really high XGs. It just means that I'm giving my players tap-ins. So as a coach, I've created a really good tactic. Ultimately, if he fails to find the back of the net, it's the player's fault, not my fault. Next step, is it our player? Well, to find out if it's our player, we need to take a deeper dive into a view that gives us that breakdown. Now, here I have a view which gives me very simple information. You can definitely download this view from the links below. Essentially, what I want to know is his average shot XG, his non-penalty XG, total number of shots, shot conversion, goals, and XG. Now, this is the information that we want. Then we look at his average shot XG. Now, if it's 0.2 and higher, it means he's getting into decent goal scoring positions. Then we look at his goals divided by XG. If his goals are equal to his XG, oh no. And, he is doing okay. He should be scoring more goals. Why? 1 XG shouldn't give you 1 goal. It should actually give you 3 goals because a good chance is 0.3, not 1. 1 is as good as standing in front of the goal, in front of an empty net and, just using any part of your body to put the ball in. How often are you going to create those kind of chances? I mean, the highest XG I've achieved in the game is 0.87. And that literally had my player standing on the line and just having to put the ball in with any part of his body. But that happens very rarely. So what you really want is a player to have at least 3 goals for every 1 XG. So this is how we approach numbers in the game. Now, who is getting into good goal scoring positions and who is not? So you look at Pito. His XG is 25.02. His goals are only 25. Actually, it should be a lot higher. It's 25.03 multiplied by 1.3. Okay, so that should be the total goals he scored. So XG per shot is 0.18. He's at 136 shots. His shot on target percentage is 47%, but his conversion rate is 18. But look at down the list here, John Jacobs. This is the player who used data to sign, right? His conversion rate is a lot higher. It's at 20%. Now, his shot on target is almost the same as this, 40, 48, 17. But his goals to XG ratio is much better. right? He's 15 for 19, right? So his XG per shot, he gets into his in terms of getting into goal scoring positions, his off the ball could be improved, right? So if I wanted to develop this player, I probably go like, okay, maybe I need to improve his off the ball or his agility, right? So in terms of his training, what we're gonna do now, additional focus, we're gonna work on his agility and balance. So he gets in, he twists and turns a bit better in the box. So it'll improve him a bit more. But this tells me that he is on fire as a striker. So while Pito is our top striker of all time, right? He is not performing the last couple of matches. So this is how you can tell whether it's the tactic or the player. We know that it's the player in this case. Now, Tenorio here has not played many games, right? But from this, we should be giving him more chances, right? But his shot on target percentage is only 37%. He hardly ever gets a lot of his shots on target, right? So in this particular case, training, I'm going to get him to work on final third. So we want his composure and his decision making to go up, right? His off the ball also needs to go up. So we're going to work on all three of his. And his training as well, because he was injured for a while. So we're going to work on a training program for him. Let's check his feet. Left-footed, right? So he's always been training on the right side. That's it. So we're addressing these few players in terms of their performances. So this is a striker assessment. So faults against, right? Now, John Jacobs has he's played what appearances he's made like 34 appearances. Pito has made 42 appearances, but 45 versus 69. The number of times John Jacobs gets fouled and him, I'm looking at John Jacobs for the future. Pito, honestly, Pito, I'll sell him. I will sell him. Yeah, I think now is a good time for us to think about selling off Pito. Because Pito might be an important player. Okay, but his wages are 14.9, almost 15 million. So is he worth 15 million when I have a player here who is, I'm paying only half, literally in almost half his wages and doing much better? So in terms of us evaluating our striker, I think this guy is much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this for you guys. So this tells me a lot. No? From here, like interceptions per 90, right? Okay. So now I want to know whether these guys are good at closing down opposition players, right? All right. Precious. Costanzo 4.22. Ooh, impressive. Okay. Per 90, completed. That means it's 4 times he chases after and harries a player. Interceptions 2.13 in front. Per 90, he intercepts the ball at least twice in a game. I mean, look, compare that to like a fullback who fullbacks get a lot of interceptions a game, right? So we got Dye Smith, interceptions 3.33. So my winger, okay, intercepts a ball 2 times a game. My fullback intercepts the ball 3 times a game. Brilliant. So in terms of this is what I call for when I'm playing this kind of really aggressive systems. I need my players to press. Of course, this is also part and parcel of your tactic, right? So just because if your tactic doesn't create that high defensive line, if you're not playing with a high defensive line, or if you're not playing with a high block, like I'm playing a high block, high defensive line, so I should be expecting numbers in this range for him. If I were playing a low block, then I don't expect Costanzo to be making that many interceptions because he's going to drop into midfield before he starts his pressing, right? So then what I'll be looking for will be tackles, right? Tackles per 90, but his numbers are not bad. Now we know how our strikers are doing. So my decision to put John Jacobs in front is a correct one. If your tactic is creating good goal scoring chances, there's a big gulf between you and number 2 on the XG table in terms of XGs and goals. That means you're doing really well. However, if your tactic is creating good goal scoring chances and your strikers are not bearing them, then it's very simple. You work on the striker. You either change him or you send him for training. Now, training, the kind of training you send him for depends on whether he was actually getting a good XG per shot. Now, if he's good XG per shot, setting for finishing and composure and technique. If it was low XG per shot, he can't get into those positions, then setting for off the ball trading. That's what you need to do in order to improve your striker and his game. Sometimes we don't have that kind of time to send a player for training and hope that he develops in 6 months. And this is where you can make a role change. Now, it's important to understand there are some roles that are great to change. But this can be a bit tricky because it all depends on your formation. There are some roles like the advanced forward that are great at breaking defensive lines. So if you are creating a tactic that likes to break a defensive line, get players behind, the advanced forward is fantastic because he's always going to be trying to get behind the defensive line. And whenever you are playing a mid block or a low block, the advanced forward just becomes a super role because these guys are always looking to break past the defenders to score goals. So the advanced forward can be a fantastic role if you decide suddenly, you know what, maybe we want to drop our mentality a bit, or you want to drop your block and you want to try and beat the players, then the advanced forward becomes a great role. So you can change roles in the game, but this tends to be a bit more trickier because it means that you are adapting to the formation that you're playing against. Another role that I personally will encourage more people to try is the poacher. Now, the poacher is a phenomenal role because it is not a complicated role. He holds defenders together and he creates the opportunities for other players to arrive late in the box to score goals. The poacher and the shadow striker is one heck of a combination because when the poacher holds the defense, shadow strikers can come in and attack the space. And this is one of the reasons why when I'm struggling to score goals against the opposition and I'm thinking to myself, the opposition is actually sitting deep. Now, all I need to do is to keep those defenders occupied. That's when I think of changing the striker to a poacher if I'm using shadow strikers alongside him. So formations like the 4-3-2-1, the 4-1-4-1 are fantastic tactics that you can use where you can deploy a poacher, shadow striker, advanced forward, shadow striker combination, because these kind of roles, what they tend to do is they tend to keep defenses occupied, the two central defenders occupied, releasing space for the shadow striker to attack. So whenever I'm changing roles for a striker, I'm very, very careful because I want to make sure they share the same duty. So advanced forward, poacher would be good because they share the same duty. Pressing forward and attack, advanced forward, and the poacher. Now, all these three, for me, they're relatively interchangeable. The other roles, I'm very careful with them. DLF on attack, he drops too deep. F9 drops too deep. Trequartista drops. Pressing forward drops. Pressing forward on support drops. But he can be solid if you want to make him link up with other players. So, like I said, when it comes to changing roles, there's no hard and fast rule. It can be tricky. But the three safe ones I've always found, that they're not tricky. The pressing forward on attack, the poacher, and the advanced forward. These are the three great roles because they're simple to understand. Poacher brings others into play to score goals. Advanced forward pins the backline back and then you can run at the defense. Pressing forward, well, he just harasses the backline. He just, he creates opportunities for other players to get into the third. So, these are all things that I bear in mind whenever I want to change a role. These are just some of the things that I do to get my strikers to score more goals. And I'm really interested to know how you do it too. Are there any other things that I might have missed out? Let me know in the comments below. I'm trying to keep these kind of videos short, and I hope today's video helped you guys out. So take care of yourselves and happy gaming. Bye-bye.